Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Managing Violence podcast. FightBite! Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Managing Violence podcast, FightBite. This one will be a little bit closer to what the original intention was. These were supposed to be super short. The first one, I got a little bit carried away. I thought it was going to be 10 to 15 minutes. It ended up being, God, I don't know, 30 minutes. Look, it was a big subject and I had to cover a lot of ground and yeah, whatever. Some of you enjoyed it. Some of you clicked off after 5 minutes. That's cool. I just want to put out some content that helps some people. So hopefully we accomplish that. Today will be a fair bit shorter because we're a little bit more concise, although this, again, could be a topic that we build an entire podcast around. It could be an hour-long discussion. It could be a 3-hour discussion. It could be an entire book if you want to put some work into it and put some research behind it and apply some sociology and criminology and psychology and all the ologies behind it. You could certainly make it a big subject. But I'm going to try to do my best to give this topic a little bit light, give you my opinion on how the topic should be taught and what you should be thinking about. So the topic is something that comes up in my classes on a regular basis, and that is what is worth fighting for. Now, backtracking a little bit, when we talk about traditional martial arts or we talk about combative arts, physical self-defense, oftentimes we get so caught up in the physical, he does this, so I do that, or this is the attack and this is the defense, or if someone did this, I would definitely do that, or someone comes into my house, I'm definitely going to kill them because that's my right and that's my property and that's my blah blah blah. All that kind of to be honest, bullshit. Anyone who says I would do this has nearly always not had that experience. Anyone who is sure what they would do probably hasn't really lived it and probably doesn't really have their head around all the possible variables that go into a situation, especially when violence is concerned. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into what I think is worth fighting for. But what I'm not going to do is what a lot of instructors seem to do, which is tell you what's worth fighting for, because everybody has a different opinion. Everyone has different values. There are some universals I think we all agree are worth fighting for, but maybe not. And there's certainly some things on the fringes but in both directions that some people may or may not agree are worth fighting for. My point is that you need to make that decision for yourself. So let's have a look at what the options are. Okay, so one of the most common pieces of advice I hear trotted out is don't fight to the death over your wallet. Okay, that's pretty good advice, really. For the vast majority of people, your what's in your wallet isn't worth dying for. So I think we can all agree with that, but it does miss the nuance of the situation. So it depends what's in your wallet. What does that wallet represent to you? What is what are the consequences of not handing over your wallet? We always kind of assume that we know the parameters. So when people say don't fight over your wallet, what they're often talking about is, you're at the ATM, you got cash out, you've got $100 in your wallet and your credit cards, and someone approaches you from behind that you've never seen before, that you know nothing about, and they put a knife in your back or they put a gun to your chest and they ask for your wallet. In that circumstance, that's pretty sound advice, I think. The consequences of fighting over that wallet are probably not worth messing with. You end up dead over what? I think that's fairly indisputable. What if you know the person? What if you can tell? There's no intention to harm you here. What if it's a child? There's so many different variables that may make it worth resisting. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying there's variables we need to consider. What if that wallet or that phone has the only photos you have of your children that all passed away in a car accident? And for you, that is your life, and you are going to fight to the death to protect those memories and protect those photos. Maybe that's your reality. If that's your reality, then I'm not going to begrudge you if you say, no, I'm willing to get stabbed to protect those photos or those memories or whatever it is. I'm not here to cast judgments on your values. That's really important. I think it's obnoxious when instructors do that. So you need to decide what in your life is worth fighting for, and to what degree is it worth fighting for. Is it worth fighting for when the consequences are you might get a bit beat up and you might end up with a concussion, or you might end up with missing work because you're a bit lumped up. Okay, cool. Is it worth fighting for still if the consequence is almost certainly that you will die? That's usually what we're talking about when this conversation comes up, is what's worth dying for. And I think that's something we've all got to wrap our heads around, especially those in the combatives world. And I use that term to encompass all martial arts and all self-defense practitioners. Those of us in the combatives world get very fixated on, I do this to maintain my sovereignty and to be able to defend myself and defend my family, defend my pride, which is a terrible reason to fight, by the way. But we do this because we're going to protect ourselves. But what we need to understand is that anytime we go hands-on with someone, there is a chance, a variable chance, but there is a chance that it will result in a fatality. Even if there's no intention to cause grievous bodily harm or to murder or to cause manslaughter, it could be as simple as you shove somebody or they shove you, someone falls down, bangs their head, and they're dead. Now you need to decide whether that circumstance, that situation, was really worth the pile of shit that you are about to walk through, whether it's you in the hospital, whether it's your family dealing with your death, or whether it's you in a courtroom having to defend your actions, and then even if you get cleared criminally, then having to go through civil trials and being sued and potentially being asked to pay for loss of income for the culprit or the person that you accidentally hurt. There's so much that goes into deciding to become hands-on with somebody. And I think that's what we really need to understand, is there are consequences in so many different ways. There are consequences physically, which are the ones that are obvious that we talk about all the time. Like, you could get hurt, you could get killed. There are consequences emotionally. If you happen to accidentally kill someone in self-defense, are you going to be okay with that? And if your immediate reaction is, yeah, I'd definitely be okay with that, then you're full of shit. You don't know. You don't know if you'll be okay with that because it's not a normal human experience. So if you've never killed someone before, and you know with some sort of certainty that you'll be okay, then you're full of shit if you say you know. You just don't. So there are emotional consequences for you. There are emotional consequences for your family because you will change after violence. Potentially, let's say it all goes well, but now your family lives in fear, or now maybe your wife or your husband is scared for you and doesn't want to let you go out on your own, or doesn't want to let you do all the things you enjoy because last time you got into a fight. That may not be the case if you decided to use a little bit of verbal discretion and got yourself out of it, or you avoided the situation to begin with. So you need to think about emotional consequences for all concerned. You need to think about your kids. Okay? If you have children, you need to think about your family, people that depend upon you, people in your community that rely upon you, your colleagues, your workplace, all these other areas. Can you maintain your employment or your job if you are charged? Okay, let's say you don't serve jail time, but you get a common assault charge. Are you in a profession where that will be the end of your career, where you can't stay on? Does it jeopardize licensing? There are so many different variables, especially for a lot of you that I know a lot of my listeners work in law enforcement, medicine, and security industry, corrections, etc. So you need to consider that. Is this going to be a career ender for me over what? Over someone looking at me funny, over someone giving me a bit of attitude, over someone deciding I was an easy target and shoving me around and getting a little bit of an ego boost from it. I mean, sure, no one likes that. No one wants to be victimized. No one wants to have that loss of face. But what are the consequences? Even if I defend myself well, even if I know I can eat this guy, even if I know that I can just destroy him and his whole bloodline, is it worth it? Does it accomplish anything? And what are the consequences? What's the fallout here? And let's talk about the reality of violence. Violence isn't over when you decide it's over. Violence is over when everyone decides it's over. So that's the police, that's the court system, that's the person's family, and it's all their friends and acquaintances as well. Even if you win a fight, let's take this out of a life and death situation. Let's take it to a situation that commonly affects young men. You're at a party, you're at a club, you're at a bar, whatever. Someone causes a little bit of trouble. They're antagonizing you, they're challenging you, calling you a pussy, push, shove, whatever. They're being obnoxious. There's no direct threat to your safety straight away. Or maybe there is. Maybe there's a minor threat to your safety, but it's a situation that you could possibly walk away from, possibly talk your way out of, or you know what, just leave and go home. But you don't feel like you should because, look, you've got a right to be there. Your ego feels a little bit challenged. It's very hard to to walk away from that situation every time because, especially if you're a young male full of testosterone, our evolutionary biology doesn't want us to walk away from that fight. It wants us to stick around, beat up the bad guy, and establish dominance to attract female chimpanzees. As Rory Miller says in my podcast several times, our biology has evolved to attract female chimpanzees, not female humans, which is kind of unfortunate for us. But nevertheless, let's say it's a situation you could have avoided, but instead you decide to exercise your rights, defend yourself, and because you are a highly trained killing machine, you put him down with one punch and you are victorious, and his buddies pick him up and they take him away and it's all over and done with. Someone at the bar buys you a round of drinks for shutting up the loudmouth, and it's a victory, right? The police never get called because it turns out this guy's a drug dealer and he doesn't want to go to the cops about it. His family doesn't even hear about it. It's all over and done with. 6 months go by, you haven't heard anything. Good times, right? You probably don't even remember it happened after a while, especially if you've been in a few fights. And then he happens to see you walking down the street with your child 6 months in the future. Maybe you're coming out of a restaurant or a cafe or something. And he sees you from across the street and his buddies are with him and they say, "Hey, isn't that the guy that kicked your ass? Isn't that the guy that embarrassed you in front of everybody?" And now he decides that, you know what? Here it is. And I'm not going to let that stand. I need to recover my honor. Now, keep in mind, you have no idea he's here. You have no idea that you're about to be in a fight. And he wants it that way. The first thing you know about this situation is that there is a knife penetrating your kidneys. And maybe there's even one going into your child. Over what? Over you being too proud to walk away from a fight 6 months ago while you're drinking. That's what we need to consider when we decide what's worth fighting for. Is your pride worth fighting for? In the moment, maybe. What about 6 months from now when you are out with someone you love? Is it still worth fighting then? So many variables, guys. There are so many variables when it comes to what's worth fighting for. I can tell you now, I'm in my 30s now. I've got a wife and young children. What's worth fighting for now is completely different to what's worth fighting for 10 years ago for me. 10 years ago, I had some bullshit delusions, I guess you'd say, about moral code and justice and honor and all this sort of stuff. So I probably would have got into fights a little bit more easily than now. Now, especially given the profile I've got and how readily accessible my training history and so on is online, I certainly don't want to be defending myself in court. But secondly, I don't want to draw negative karma into my life. I don't want this to visit my kids. I don't want this to visit my wife. I don't want this to visit my church. I don't want this to visit my life outside of that incident. So I will do everything I possibly can to make sure that there is no incident, to make sure everyone leaves with maintaining their sense of dignity and that there's no comebacks and that I don't have to deal with police or lawyers or media or anyone else. So right now, if you said to me, what would you fight for? What I would fight for is to save my life or to stop harm to my wife and children. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know what? I'll extend that to other people. I don't think I could stand by and watch someone be victimized if I was in a position to help. If I was on my own and my wife and kids were safe, I'd like to think I would definitely jump in to assist if I saw an incident taking place. I'd hate to think I'd be someone who sat around filming it. But if I was the only person there, as in I didn't have my kids with me, I would like to think I would definitely get involved. So to prevent harm to someone else, sure, absolutely. However, as I said, if I had my kids with me and there's a chance they're going to get involved, sorry, that's probably where I'm going to draw the line. So that's me. That's me personally. Now, the point of this is not for me to prescribe to you what's worth fighting for, what's worth dying for. My point is for you to have that internal conversation with yourself. Maybe you feel that losing face is worth fighting for and dying for. Maybe you feel like that social mores and social norms and respect is worth dying for. And if that's the case, then more power to you. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm just going to tell you it doesn't match up with where I'm at in my life at this particular moment. But what I do think is critically important is that we establish that for ourselves before you find yourself in the situation. Have that internal self-awareness of what do I think is worth fighting for? What is worth dying for me? So that when the situation comes up, you know where you sit with your rules of engagement. Is this a situation that's not worth fighting for and therefore I will do everything I can to avoid it? Or is this a situation where I know 100% this is definitely game on, it's definitely worth fighting for, I'm in? Because you don't want to hesitate when you're in that moment where it is game on, and you certainly don't want to jump the gun on a situation that isn't worth fighting for. So look, that's just some thoughts for you. I could go on a lot longer about this subject, but I do want to keep it short. Have a conversation with yourself, with your loved ones. Determine what is worth fighting for you. Because if you're training and learning these skills, you need to have some idea of how you're going to apply them and under what circumstances you're going to apply them. It's no good trying to figure this out when shit hits the fan. You need to know beforehand. All right. I'd love to invite some conversation on this, guys. So if you're watching on YouTube, drop us a comment, have a look, see what other people have said, and feel free, comment. Tell us what you would fight for. Tell us what you think. Am I full of shit? Is there a lot more things worth fighting for? Am I an idiot? I don't know. I'm just where I'm at now. I'm in my 30s. Maybe I'll have a different opinion when I'm in my 40s or 50s. I don't know. I don't know who's right and who's wrong. I'm just telling you where I'm at. So, drop us a comment, hit subscribe. I'm going to do more of these as time allows, and I look forward to talking to you next time.